We celebrate this incredible journey, a journey where tradition inspires innovation, transformation defines the future. And for the special session, ladies and gentlemen, firstly, I would request Sri Amitabh Ranjan ji to please join us on stage as the moderator for the special session. As the Registrar of the Indian Institute of Public Administration, Sri Amitabh Ranjan ji is a distinguished leader in academic governance and public policy administration. He facilitates the training and development of India's top civil servants and administrators. His strategic oversight ensures that the pillars of Indian administration remains robust, ethical, and adaptable to modern digital challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Amitabh Ranjan ji on stage. Now allow me to also invite Professor Sukumar Mishra ji, Director IIT ISM Dhanbad. Professor Sukumar Mishra is a distinguished academician serving as the Director of IIT Dhanbad. Under his visionary leadership, IIT Dhanbad is evolving from its legendary mining roots into a multidisciplinary technical giant. A fellow of numerous prestigious global academies, he is internationally renowned for his research in renewable energy, smart grid technologies, and power system. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Sukumar Mishra. Let me also welcome on stage Professor Venkapaya R. Desai Garu. Professor Venkapaya R. Desai Garu is a distinguished academician serving as the director of IIT Hyderabad. He is currently spearheading the growth of one of India's newest IITs, fostering an environment of research-driven innovation and academic rigor. An expert in water resource engineering and hydrology, his work has significantly impacted sustainable infrastructure and resource management across the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Professor Venkapaya R. Desai Garu. Please allow me to invite Professor Mahendra Kumar Madhavan Garu on stage. Professor Mahendra Kumar Madhavan ji is a Dean of Alumni and Corporate Relations at IIT Hyderabad and a globally recognized expert in structural engineering. In Jan 2026, he was conferred the prestigious fellowship of the Institution of Structural Engineers, UK. He plays a vital role in IIT Hyderabad's rise as a premier global hub for innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Mahendra Kumar Madhavan Garu. And now I request Sri Amitabh Ranjan ji, moderator for this session, to take over the proceedings. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us, one and all on stage.
One mic.
Good morning, everyone. A warm welcome to this PanIIT Alumni Conference 2026. And what a better day it should have been when India meets New Zealand today in the finals of T20 Cricket World Cup as enumerated by our chairman, PanIIT Alumni Association, Sri Prabhat Kumar ji. And we are sitting in this city of pearls. And as per him, we should take some pearls of wisdom also. And this is the city where traditions have been paramount. Hyderabad, as we know, is known for the traditions. And the topic of today is traditions meet transformation. And when we are talking about traditions, then why we should talk about only this 200, 300 years of tradition? Actually, as per the Indian ancient knowledge system, we have a tradition of more than 2,000 years, 5,000 years, 7,000 years back. And I would just like to enumerate what was our ancient Indian knowledge system where the importance of science and technology was paramount. We had Aryabhat, the inventor of zero, around 1700 years back. We had Varahamihir, one of the most brilliant minds in the field of mathematics. We had Sushrut, the first recognized plastic surgeon of the world, and we had Charak, called father of Indian medicine system, known for Charak Samhita. And not only that, when we go back 7,000 years back, then I would like to just mention one small incident from Ramcharitmanas, that when Prabhu Sri Ramchandra ji was trying to cross the sagar, the ocean, the sea, and he was just worshipping the sea god, and sea god was not appearing. And then after 3 days, he just took out his bow and arrow, and then the sea god appeared. And he asked for forgiveness, requested for forgiveness, and then Ramchandji, of course, forgave him, and he told about the way to Sri Lanka. But then Ramchandji asked the Sagar or sea god a question, कि प्रभु, सब कुछ तो ठीक है, मैंने आपको क्षमा भी कर दिया, लेकिन what should I do with this arrow which is now on the bow? मैं इस बाण का क्या करूं जो कि धनुष पे चढ़ चुका है? कहाँ इसे संधान करूं? Where I should shoot the arrow? I have to shoot it. Then the sea god suggested that, Prabhu, no one can tolerate the power of your arrow. But around, he told some distance, I am forgetting that, but in easterly direction, there is one mountain, that is Dhumraketu. You can shoot the arrow there, and only Dhumraketu can tolerate the power of your arrow. And Dhumraketu, that means smoke-emitting mountain. And if you see from Rameshwaram, and India has only one volcano, Mount Barren Island. It is just in easterly direction in Andaman Nicobar Islands. And so we knew 7,000 years back also that we had a volcano, Dhumraketu, and which was discovered in 1887, and the British took all the credit. And I'm sure that Goswami Tulsidas or Maharshi Valmiki never visited Mount Barren Island, rest alone the Rameshwaram also. But they wrote about that. That means we had this great mind power that met science and technology at that time. They traveled through their mind power. And this mind meeting the technology is known to us since ancient times. We know about the Parkaya Pravesh technique or technology by Adi Shankaracharya, through which he defeated Mandan Misra, the disciple of Kumaril Bhatt, to establish Advaitvad in India. So we had all these ancient technologies, ancient science, ancient engineering, but somehow, somewhere down the line, through a prolonged wave of slavery or colonialism, we forgot all these things. We degenerated. But when our Honorable Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi, just recently said in November that we have to completely decolonize by 2035, and we have to decolonize this 200 years of colonization, then why he is talking about that? Because we were liberated in 1947, but this wave of colonization started in 1835 by Lord Macaulay, which destroyed our culture, which destroyed our ancient wisdom, which destroyed our ancient ways of learning. But we have a tradition where learning goes from not only cradle to grave, but learning goes from womb to tomb. Some of you might have studied Mahabharata, where you would have read about Abhimanyu learning the art of penetrating Chakravyuh while he was in the womb of his mother Subhadra. So we had this power of mind-meeting technology, science, and now, when in 1951, IIT Kharagpur was established, as said by PanIIT alumni chairman, on Hisley detention camp. That Hisley was the symbol of colonization. And IIT Kharagpur was established on the site of Hisley detention camp, and this was the first demolition of colonialism in India. And where now IIT growth story is there, which is transforming India again, which is transforming India and driving India towards Viksit Bharat by or before 2047. As per a IIT Delhi report in 2026 itself, around 2,500 IIT alumni all over the world are startup founders. They are creating more than 480,000 jobs directly. And we had some of the best CEOs in the world like Sundar Pichai, Arvind Krishna, N. Narayan Murthy, Nandan Nilekani, Bansal Brothers, and you name one and he or she is from PanIIT, he or she is from IIT. So this is IIT transforming India towards Viksit Bharat 2047. We had the pleasure of the presence of Professor Sukumar Misra, Director of IIT ISM Dhanbad, Professor Venkapaya R. Desai, Director of IIT Hyderabad, and Professor Mahendra Madhavan Garu, Dean from IIT Hyderabad. So, a big round of applause for all the three gentlemen here present. And the anchor has already given the introduction, and she enumerated one shlok also. I would like to start with one shlok that Vanani dahto vahne sakha bhavati maruta. Vanani dahto vahne sakha bhavati maruta. Saev deepnashaya krishe kasyasti sohridam. That means when a fire engulfs the forest, the wind helps it. But the same wind puts out a little lamp. That means that weaks can't even get help also. Only the strong get the help, all the help. And we have seen this in the case of Maduro, the president of Venezuela, and what happened with him. And Venezuela could not get even the help of anyone. Statements were there from Russia, China, each and everyone, but no one came to help him. So we have to be strong, as our Prime Minister says, that we have to be Atmanirbhar Bharat, Agrani Bharat, Atulya Bharat, and IITs are doing all this transformation. So my first question to Professor Sukumar Mishra, the champion of sustainable development, electrical engineer, and founder of one startup also, Silo Solution Private Limited, which is in the field of renewable energy. Sir, you are a champion of smart grid technology, and our Prime Minister also says that one sun, one world, one grid. So how do you like to see this statement, and how is your take about the smart grid solutions for India?
Thank you for giving this opportunity. Before going to directly to the smart grid technology, as already told by the chairman of PanIIT, T stands for technology. If we see the educational degree that India gives from long, maybe 50 years ago, we were giving BSc engineering bracketed. Then we migrated to BE, Bachelor of Engineering, and then we migrated to BTech. So if you also see, during your initial introduction, you have mentioned many a times a word which is analogous to knowledge. Even the MC, she was also mentioning about the knowledge, and you have also mentioned about Indian knowledge system. Now, if you look, the Hindi translation of knowledge is Gyan, and the Hindi translation of science is Vigyan. So in Gyan, there are 2 letters. In Vigyan, there are 3 letters. This B, which is prefixed to Gyan, what is the meaning of that? Because this Vigyan as a word exists since long. Even from our ancient time, if you see, we have Vigyanmaya Kosh, and those things are mentioned in the yogic term. B, according to me, is the analysis of the Gyan. And this analysis should be done in the language of the community which they understood. So there are certain Gyan in our ancient system. Now if I can analyze that in the language of a scientist, then it will be termed as Vigyan. If I analyze that in terms of a sociologist, then it will be a social reform. If I do that in terms of a philosopher, then it will be a philosophy. So the language in which you are analyzing is important, and hence we need to convert our ancient knowledge, whatever is there, into the terminology of the scientist, and hence it will be converted to Vigyan. And only Vigyan cannot do anything for a country unless otherwise we convert the Vigyan to vitamin M. M stands for money. So the conversion of Vigyan, that is applied science, which is engineering, to the money part is technology. Therefore, if you see, the migration in the country has happened from the science to applied science to little bit more engineering and then finally to technology. And at that time, our visionaries, leaders, has thought about this term technology and has rightly put the word Indian Institute of Technology. Once you are into a technological system, then you will be in a competitive market. Till you are in science, you are in competitive knowledge base. But when you convert it to technology, you are into a competitive market. And when you enter to a market, like we go into a market and we purchase commodity, this science engineering thing which you have converted to a commodity now, a product now, is to be standing in the market space as a competitive product. Like you purchase vegetable, maybe tomato, potato and those things, and you take the good one, same thing you will face. And hence, we have to venture into that domain as a technological expert. Now I will come to his question, which is the smart grid technology. If you see, grid exists before, will exist in future, and also existing today. And this smart is an adjective which has been added to the grid. And smartness differ from person to person. When I am seeing one human being, I am telling that he or she a smart guy. Now, that person, when sees to someone else, may not say that he is a smart guy. So it is a relative aspect. That is why we need to understand also the grid, what we term as smart, should be acceptable to our country. Need not to follow exactly somebody else who has done it. So, according to me, we should divide that into two parts. One for the nation building, another for getting vitamin M from outside, which is our export. And in that context, when we look and we want to make something smarter and smartest, in that the acceptance is most important. And acceptance is having two components. One, beautification. Second, technology. If you something give in a keypad and you give something in a touch screen, maybe work-wise both of them are identical, but the beautification exists in the touch screen. Therefore, we must also learn how to make ourselves handsome and beautiful so that we will be sellable in the market. And that is what the smart grid is.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. You have beautifully enumerated the concept of smart grid, and before that, Gyan and Vigyan. It is said that na chor haryam, na raj haryam, na bhratribhajyam, na cha bharkari. न चोर हार्यम न च राज हार्यम न भ्रतृभाज्यम न च भारकारी वै कृते वर्धते सर्वथा विद्याधनम सर्वप्रधानम. The thieves cannot steal it, kings cannot snatch it cannot be divided into brothers and sisters, it carries no weight, and it only grows when you donate it, when you distribute it, and that is why knowledge or education is the greatest asset, greatest wealth. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And now we come to Professor Venkapaiah R. Desai, and he has been an acclaimed civil engineer, a champion of sustainable development, and on water resources, integrated water management, and a PhD from Clemson University, South Carolina, USA. And sir, we are living in a water-stressed country. Actually, 2/3 of India is water-stressed, and we had a report just some 3 months back in Nature Sustainability that 5 of our mega cities, that is Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Bengaluru, and Kolkata, are sinking to the tune of 4 millimeter per year, and somewhere it is 20 millimeter, 30 millimeter also per year due to over extraction of groundwater. So what is solution for India, sir? Because we need water also, so we have to use water also, but then how can we say optimize this and how can we sustain it?
Dhanyawad, Amitabh Ranjan ji, and dhanyawad, that is thanks to the organizers for giving this opportunity on this special day, which already in the previous one it happens to be Antarashtriya Mahila Divas, as well as it's a Sunday, that is a second Sunday in the month of March. So, we all know that how important is water. Even on the Earth's surface, nearly 78-79% is covered with water bodies, mostly seas or oceans. Even in our own, within our body also, nearly around the similar percentage of water, similar percentage is covered with water. So here, what I would like to bring to this one is, see the Western, that is practice of the water management, wherein, like say, our wastewater engineering. And in fact, there are Sanskrit word for wastewater is dushta jala, that means cruel water. So here what we do is just, I have been thinking on these lines, and so hopefully maybe in the next maybe few years, or at least maybe 5 to 10 years, we will be able to achieve this one. Like say for example, when we go in our design, our shauchalaya in English is called water closet, WC. And here what we do is, from any animal, including human beings, when the waste gets released, it has the least volume. But to add mobility, the first principle of environmental conservation, that is reduce, recycle, reuse, and of course now it is also added with the retrofit. So here, but in the developed countries, they have a very strict mechanism, implementation mechanism. Because of that, they do not release either partially treated or untreated wastewater directly into the water bodies, which unfortunately, we may be doing that in very sporadic locations, whereas in general, in our country, most of our water bodies are polluted, and then added to that is, see, I would like to say, like we are, in general, the old superstitions have been replaced by new superstitions. Like say, I would say, we have in the name of development, we go for concrete roads, which are impervious. So they bring that is a disconnect or divorce between Bhujal, the surface water, and Antarjal, the groundwater. So this needs to be addressed at this one. So there are certain examples. So like say many that is these days the modern buildings, they have a dual pipeline system, wherein for drinking and cooking, the per capita human need is 10 LPCD, 10 liters per capita per day. Highest quality of water is needed. So that is done through this one. For that there is a separate pipeline. Whereas for all other purposes, it is the wastewater which is treated and reused. So if we do that, then obviously it is we can definitely do that. I will give some examples, the best examples globally. So Singapore is a city country located on equator, and about 45 years back, they started what is known as new water. NEW is capital and ATER small. That means domestic wastewater is carried through deep sewerage tunnels to a reservoir, that is the underground reservoir, and there it is purified to to drinking water quality standards, as enunciated by World Health Organization, Vishwa Arogya Samstha or WHO, or in our country it is BIS, Bureau of Indian Standards. And so that time they started with just 2.5%, because otherwise लोग पूछ सकते अरे आप क्या हमको गटर के पानी पिला रहे हो? So therefore, and the Singapore, the leadership, the political leadership, President, Prime Minister, in such huge congregations, they used to say, this is new water. I have full faith in its quality, so I am going to drink it. So these kinds of, that is the confidence building measures for the general public, they started. And now they have reached a stage wherein this new water constitutes 40% of their, this one, that is a water source. They call it as a fifth tap. Rainwater, river water, ground, which started, the thing which started, new concept which started with 2.5%, it has reached 40%, means it is 16 times. That is the one example. And another one among the floating bodies, I'm sure all of you may be knowing about Netherlands, the Netherlands. And in fact, I very well remember a Dutch friend of mine, whom during my the final days of PhD, he asked me one day, Mr. Desai, do you know the meaning of the word nether in my country's name? I said, I don't know. Then he enlightened me, the word nether comes from the Sanskrit word nicha, which means topographically low-lying. And earlier it was known as Holland. In between there is a sea, and to the east of sea is Holland, to the west of sea is England. So what they did was actually, on first prerequisite is maintaining the water quality in the flowing, this one, that is streams, that is rivers, streams, nala, whatever it is. And then building the dikes, the surface level or subsurface level, so that actually do not allow the water from the river to directly join into sea or ocean. And here, what this one is, because what happens is, see, sea or oceans, it is only the water evaporates, not the salts. That is why with every passing year, the salinity in sea or sea water or ocean water will increase. So here, this water is made to get stored upstream of a surface or subsurface dike. And then there will be another wall, which is perpendicular to the dikes along the river course, the stream course, wherein on one side of that one, it divides the river course, and then on one side there will be river water, and on the other side there will be sea water. And there will be a little bit of level difference, and using this level difference, some tidal power is also generated. So these kinds of one, and if you all, I'm sure many of you might have had the one opportunity to visit the Netherlands. So there actually it is the best example for water-related infrastructure. And in fact, in our country it was there. During Adi Shankaracharya's time, that is in the 7th or 8th century. So there was no this, the urbanization problem was not there. Like say our former president, APJ Abdul Kalam ji, he was telling Pura, that means providing urban infrastructure in rural areas. So that kind of thing, we need to achieve that. And without taking much time, so there are, I would like to mention, see, our country can only be compared with China. We cannot compare with the US, because US is thrice in terms of area, whereas 1/4 in terms of population. So the Janasandrata or population density is 1/12 of ours. And Canada is 10% more in area as compared to US, and the population is 10% of US. So therefore Canada is 120 times less populated than ours. And Russia is even less populated. In our country, if the distance between two neighboring villages is 100 or 150 meters, whereas in Russia it is that many kilometers, 100 to 150 kilometers. So we can only compare with China. And just I would like to give the example, this one, of two animals. See, there are two animals. The first is the earthworm, which represents maximum responsibility and minimum freedom. When it rains, it just connects the surface with this one, and then it generates vermicompost. So that is the example of earthworm, maximum freedom, minimum responsibility. On the other hand, there is another animal, this one, that is fly insect, that is mosquito, which represents maximum freedom and minimum responsibility. Unfortunately, due to various loopholes in our system, and then our inability to implement things properly, and so because the Indian system, more or less it represents mosquito. So we should move from mosquito to earthworm.
Thank you.
That is, with these we can definitely do that. And in fact, I will end with the first shloka of Ishavasyopanishad, which says, Tena Ishavasya midam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat. Tena tyaktena bhunjitha magrata kasya svidhanam. That means there is what is known as sustainable consumption. Our consumption, that is our demand, should be on par with our supply. Only then we will be able to achieve this. And I am sure with so many these indigenous things coming up and all that, as one, we and even in Rig Veda there is another shloka which is quoted in all the books of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. That is Ano Bhadra Kratavo Yantu Vishwata. That means let noble thoughts come from all possible directions. So I am sure definitely within the next maybe 10 to 15 years we will be able to achieve this. So this is my hope, and so I am sure each one of us will be able to contribute in our own way, individually as well as collectively as well as institutionally.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for giving a comprehensive analysis of water situation and giving the global examples of Netherlands, China, Russia, Singapore, and this minimum freedom, maximum responsibility principle of earthworm. And in fact, sir, we have 71% of the ocean, but even ocean can't drink its own water. We are in Hyderabad, so we cannot end without a shairi that I would like to recite one shairi from Rahat Indori, that मैंने अपनी खुश्क आँखों से लहू छलका दिया, मैंने अपनी खुश्क आँखों से लहू छलका दिया, एक समंदर कह रहा था मुझको पानी चाहिए, एक समंदर कह रहा था मुझको पानी चाहिए. So even an ocean cannot drink its own water because it is so saline. So we have been allotted only 30 minutes, so I would come to the last question for Professor Mahendra Madhavan Garu from IIT Hyderabad. So, sir, actually IIT Hyderabad being established in 2008, but it has scaled the ladder of, say, ranking so swiftly, so fast, and it is now one of the topmost IITs, one of the topmost institutions. So it is where innovation is meeting the transformation. So can you highlight some of the aspects how IIT Hyderabad is moving or growing up the ladder so swiftly, so fast?
Thank you, sir, for this nice question. Typically, IITs that started way back in 1950 started as a teaching school. So at that time, there was a need for good quality engineers. So IIT started only as a BTech program. We specialized in, focusing on curriculum development and producing good quality engineers, both for the nation as well as for the global audience. Closer. But now IITs are no longer a teaching school. IITs are known for innovation, research, and things like that. So unlike the first 5 IITs that started way back in the 50s and 60s, when IIT Hyderabad got the mandate, we did something very different. We started off with research. So we started off with a PhD program, and then we started an MTech program, and then we started a BTech program. So that means that IITs typically mean Indian Institute of Technology, but what we think, and our director keeps saying, that is IIT stands for Invention and Innovation in Technology for Humanity. The H stands for Hyderabad. So that is how we treat it as IITs, just towards technology development. So we are no longer a teaching school. We are also one of the leading institutions for research and development. And this is also reflected in the type of students that we have. So typically every IITs will have a predominant number of people towards BTechs and very less towards MTech and PhD. But whereas in IIT Hyderabad we have 60% of our students, we have close to 5,800 students. So 60% of 5,800 students, more than 3,000 are focusing on PhDs as well as masters, and the remaining 40% is towards BTechs. So that way our emphasis is more on research, development, how to make India a Viksit Bharat by 2047. Technology is a key player, and IIT Hyderabad want to position itself as a force for good. But having said that, we have some challenges also to go forward, because we are progressing at a faster pace. So because Hyderabad is located in a very good location, we have a lot more students who are coming in. We are growing at a tremendous pace. But at the same time, we have challenges in terms of resources, because the typical resource that we get for IITs is based on the internal revenue generation, where the BTech students pay fees. Right? That fees is basically our income in some sense, on top of which the government is giving few things. But for us, since a majority of the students are going to be MTechs and PhDs, in addition to recruiting them, we have to pay money for them, which means that we'll be spending more and more money towards a PhD student will require 37,000 rupees per month, and MTech students requires around 12,500. So all these things are disbursement money. So at the same time, the number of students that we intake for BTechs is also low. So there is a comparison that I just made, since Desai sir was telling more about other countries. We need to compare only with China. So if you look at the amount of GDP they spend towards R&D, their GDP is around 2.7%, whereas we spend around 0.66. So if we have to truly achieve Viksit Bharat, we need oxygen. Without oxygen, we cannot our fuel to proceed forward. So there is a lot more focus should be placed on fueling that growth. The growth should be based on more investment in R&D, so that we can quickly reach Viksit Bharat by 2047. But that does not mean that it has to completely come only from the government. Right? There are a lot of industries that can play a vital role. For example, the government of India has, 2% of your income from industries have to be spent for CSR, which is corporate social responsibility. But unfortunately, that income money is not spent majority for R&D. The government actually has given a mandate that the money that is spent for R&D can also be claimed as CSR fund, through which we can support a lot of research and activities. But most of the time that goes to various activities which will not be beneficial. Sometimes they may be socially okay, but IIT Hyderabad request is to make sure that that money has to come to R&D, so that we can proceed forward. And IIT Hyderabad also has got 80G certificate, which means that 100% of the money that is given to IIT Hyderabad is tax waived. So we are thankful to the government of India for giving us that tax exemption. So we'd be happy to, use the money in the rightful way. And we thank, the audience for giving me an opportunity. And we also wanted to, do you have some more time? Do you have some more time? So we are concluding, right? So I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity, and since this is March 31st, if there is any contacts that you have towards IIT Hyderabad and you wanted to donate towards CSR activities, we'd be very happy to do so. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for highlighting the growth story of IIT Hyderabad, and also the need for more investment in research and development, and ways and means how to fund this through CSR and other activities. So I would like to conclude, and for all of India, the whole world is looking to us, and for the whole IITs, I would like to just conclude with a share that "Unhe guma tha, meri udaan kuch kam hai. उन्हें गुमा था मेरी उड़ान कुछ कम है, मुझे यकीन है ये आसमान कुछ कम है।